Good evening. Good to be together to share this monthly satsang. We have the opportunity to explore together that which is true beyond any personal perception, interpretation, perspective. This is what is so beautiful about satsang, that we can really share. If we give it a try, we can really share, because we human beings share for sure two things. One is our suffering. Our suffering is essentially the same. Our worries, our concerns, our attachments, our clinging, our fears, and so on are all the same with some nuances. But we also share the enlightened mind. We share the awakened mind. And that is also something we discover that we have in common. And when we delve into this awakened mind, this subtlest layer of our mind, we realize that there in it we see the same, feel the same, recognize the same. That's the miracle of satsang, when it does take place. When we give it a try. It's important to know I've given many thousands of talks like this. Many thousands of talks. One should expect that at this point I will feel pretty familiar with the subject. I will feel that that I've gotten used to it. That it's now spoken out of memory. But the beautiful thing about this type of truth, this type of reality, is that it has no yesterday. I'm wondering if you ever take a moment when you wake up in the morning, perhaps we wake up already loaded with the duties of the day and with perhaps what happened yesterday. So we feel this heavy load of continuity. You see that everything is in sort of a tiresome progress. But if you ever take a look outside your window, if you take a moment to communicate with nature, with the universe, not with the human-made world, with the universe, with life, it is very easy to notice that it is completely fresh. It is completely lively, despite millions and billions of years of evolution, gradual evolution. It never becomes tired, worn out. It never gets used to itself. There is a sense of freshness in everything. And this, our mind, when it gets in touch with this truth, with this reality, can also be as fresh. Now, of course, what I'm saying right now is related to this evening topic, but before that, I would invite you to meditate with me. For, again, the whole evening is one long meditation. Meditation is not only when we close our eyes and go within. It is the very process of becoming aware of our true being, and that's why this whole evening is a meditation. But we will still start with some guided meditation. And in this guided meditation, I'm going to focus on what is called the 6 instructions of Tilopa. Tilopa lived 1,000 years ago. And just in the very same way, 1,000 years ago, and his words haven't aged at all, because they indicate the point at something that is now, that is forever new. So the 6 instructions of Tilopa are simply extracts or summaries of a longer poem or song that he gave to his direct student Naropa. And these 6 instructions, they're meant to guide the disciple how to practice the Mahamudra meditation. But we are going to use it without the name Mahamudra. We will simply use these instructions to be able to tune our mind into right attention, right awareness. So let's close our eyes. And as we breathe slowly and deeply, and relax more and more with every breath we take. We will start by implementing Tilopa's first instruction that simply states don't recall, which means don't recall the past. Let go of what has happened. This means that we don't need to look back. When we close our eyes, there is a part of the conditioned mind that looks back, looks at the past, looks at what has already happened, and what has already happened may have happened 1 minute ago, even at the beginning of the satsang. Even that is already the past. So simply don't look back. Perhaps there are thoughts that look back, but you don't look back. At the center of your attention, position yourself, position your awareness in a state that no longer looks back. Nothing that has already happened matters in your meditation. In the very same way, Tilopa says, don't anticipate. Don't anticipate the future. Which means don't imagine. Let go of what may come. Future is always imagination. Therefore, you don't let go of the future, you let go of your imagination. And in a deeper sense, both your past memories and future imagination are just pictures, images. So position your awareness in a state that doesn't look back, but also doesn't look forward. Drop both directions, back and forward. And see what happens. Then Tilopa says, after you've dropped these two movements, back and forward, don't think. Don't think about the present. Which means let go of what is happening even now. Because we may have thoughts about the present. What is happening right now? The situation we are in. To a certain degree, from the point of view of meditation, even the present is the past. So don't bother with the present. Position your awareness in a state in which You no longer look back. You no longer look forward. But you're not even looking at what is happening right now. Now, what happens in a mind that doesn't look back, doesn't look forward, and doesn't even look at what is happening right now? And then perhaps the mind wants to meditate on something, to focus on something, to have some center of attention, to concentrate. Then Tilopa gives another instruction. He says, don't meditate on something. Don't hold something at the center of your attention. Don't try to focus on anything. Rather, keep the mind in a choiceless, undirected, open, completely unfocused state. Let it open widely. Now look at the mind that no longer looks back, no longer looks forward, no longer looks to analyze what is happening right now. And does not even focus or meditate on something, but remains open. And then Tilopa says, also don't analyze your actions during the meditation. Which means don't control the meditation. Don't try to make anything happen. Because perhaps in meditation, you're trying to reach some state, some special state, control, direct the meditation. Even if you don't focus on something, you are hoping to make something happen. Something that you're already anticipating, that you're already expecting to experience. So let go of this expectation. So now, what is the quality of the mind that no longer looks back or forward? That doesn't analyze the present, that doesn't meditate on anything, and doesn't try to make anything happen. In conclusion, Tilopa says, just rest naturally. Relax right now and rest. This is not like taking a nap. The state of mind when you don't look back or forward or at the present, you don't focus on anything, you're not controlling a meditation, is a very awake restfulness. You're there with the entire energy of your mind gathered, but completely unwasted. And then you just rest naturally, which means you don't do anything inwardly. You don't need to do anything inwardly. Meditation, tells us Tilopa, is a natural state of rest. Which means no inner activity. Very good. So you can slowly and gently leave this guided meditation behind. You can keep your eyes closed or open them. It doesn't matter. So our meditation talk today is going to be very much inspired by Tilopa's 6 instructions, at least indirectly. At least we will be able to better understand this talk, thanks to Tilopa's very simple instructions, right? And we're going to explore a certain aspect of the awakened mind. Awakened mind. This aspect is something that is really important to consider, and it is something a point that is usually overlooked or misunderstood or not emphasized enough. And please make sure that you're not just listening to a lecture, but you're actually responding to it actively with your being, because that's the opportunity. That's what it's all about. So what is this important aspect? Very often we refer to something, to a sort of mega concept that is called the spiritual journey, right? The spiritual journey. I obviously also make use of this term from time to time. And this principle or concept of the spiritual journey implies that there is a journey that we're taking, layer after layer, a step by step. And through this journey, we learn more and more. We experience more and more. We become more and more mature. And is that completely false? No. This is what we can call a half-truth. It's half of the truth. The thing is that without a certain crucial insight, this half-truth is no longer even half of the truth, but it's actually a dangerous illusion. Why? Because if this perception remains alone, without any complementary insight, it creates in us, consciously and unconsciously, a sense of accumulation. You understand what I mean by accumulation? It means that we are gathering something, that we are collecting, and this means that we reach a point that we feel that we know, or that we are experienced. Perhaps we have a lot of experience in meditation. Sometimes people present themselves in this way, or that they feel this way, that they have behind them 20 or 30 years of meditation. So they feel themselves as adepts, as the experienced ones. The thing is that spirituality, meditation, they are very different from expertise. You see? You cannot become an expert in meditation. In the realm of the spirit, it is actually about less and less experience, less and less memory, less consolidation, not more. You see, an expert is someone who reaches a state in which he or she masters the field. They know how to quote, they know how to explain, they know how to, they have studied the field, they know how to answer questions. So an expert, you can imagine, like a very thick mind that you know. But spirituality is actually all about less and less. It means that the deeper you go, the less consolidated you are, the less the mind is thick. Therefore, the sense of I know or I am experienced is the complete opposite. Very deeply speaking, we need to understand that the sense of I, that the I thought, the sense of self is in itself the accumulation. Think of the enlightened or the awakened mind as a river. It's river like, it's flowing. The water is rushing, is gushing ceaselessly. There's always movement. But then comes the I, then comes the self, and it's like a dam in the midst of the river. It hinders the flow. It says the water is mine. Or it freezes the water. It turns the river into a lifeless, frozen memory. You see? Then the river of the mind becomes a memory of a river. So this is the thing. The I wants to control. It wants to hold. It wants to master knowledge. It wants to become master of the enlightened state. To possess this state. To say I have it. Often people, even yogis, they speak of having attained certain siddhis, certain capacities, certain abilities. I have reached a certain state. Once the mystic and teacher Jiddu Krishnamurti, he told a story that I like very much. He says that he sat with some great yogi, very famous yogi. He didn't mention his name, but a very successful yogi. And that is already an Indian who has become westernized. And they sat on the beach in front of the sea. And the yogi started speaking about how he has reached a complete mastery over the mind, how he has reached through years of discipline the state of enlightenment, and that he has fulfilled everything that was written in the Vedas, in the Upanishads, that through this work. And Krishnamurti listened to him, and then he asked him, what is it that you're trying to hold? Then the teacher became confused. And Krishnamurti asked him, you see here the sea. Can you hold the entire sea in your hand? And the yogi said, of course not. So then Krishnamurti asked him, can you hold the entire sand in your hand? Can you hold it? And the yogi said, no. He didn't understand where what Krishnamurti was trying to convey. And then he asked him, and the wind, this breeze now, can you hold it in your hand? And the yogi said, of course not. Then Krishnamurti asked him, so what is it that you're trying to hold? What is it that you're trying to grasp? Because obviously, this awakening was for him as something, a possession, a capacity. And then the yogi, when he understood, he told Krishnamurti, you are a very bad man. I don't want to continue talking to you. And he simply stood up and left. So we all are in danger of feeling that we can hold the sea, you see? Hold the river. I call this spiritual aging. Spiritual aging is a phenomena that prevents us from being able to have a fresh and lively listening. It even prevents us right now from listening to this talk without the baggage, and I'm saying baggage, of all the years of meditation, the years of practice, all the satsangs that we've listened to. Right now, if we are listening from this baggage, only accumulating or comparing what we already heard to what we are now hearing, that is extremely limited. This means that we have aged spiritually. You see? Because the question is, how come we have reached the very opposite of what what spirituality and meditation are all about? And that is having absolutely no baggage, being able to listen without the past. And if you are saying right now, yes, I know what listening without the past is, then we are still missing the point, because it's not. We need to be very wary of this very perception that we already know something in the field of spirit. So spiritual aging prevents the mind from being fresh enough to meet each time, meet even deep spiritual truths that are always new, to meet them without comparison, without any reference to the past. In meditation, there is no aging. But in spiritual aging, there is a sense that is formed in you that you already know, or that you already understand, or that you already experienced this once. And of course, it gives us a lot of confidence You see the fake confidence that yes, I know that this has already been achieved, accomplished. It's already a part of the possession of my mind. Now I can graduate or evolve towards a new understanding, further understanding. But it doesn't work like this. This is actually a complete limitation, and it degenerates the mind. And again, this is just what Krishnamurti tells us in this story, because this is also the confusion of the person who thinks I am enlightened, or I have achieved, I have attained, I have reached a state. Now, what have you arrived at, you see? But what does that even mean? And who has become enlightened? This is the very opposite of the awakened mind. Remember, river-like, endless movement. But if I have the feeling that there is an I that has attained a fixed, permanent state, I've completely misunderstood what meditation, what spirituality is all about. So this is also spiritual aging, and it is based on self-image. I have a fixed self-image, and the self-image is also an accumulation. You see? It's because I have a fixed sense of self. I am enlightened. I have achieved. I hold this picture inside the mind. Now the river is frozen. I'm holding the wind. So the great insight is that of the awakened mind, or is exactly the opposite. The awakened mind doesn't accumulate. It is always at a state of 0 point. It is always at the point of beginning. So do you understand? So you can never say, you can never think, okay, I have accumulated, now I'm experienced, now I'm knowledgeable, now I have achieved. Because that would be the non-awakened mind. Of course, this doesn't mean that there is absolutely no knowledge or experience, right? Because when I speak right now, hopefully what I say is clearer or better explained than what I said when I was a far too young teacher at the age of 25 or 26. There is a greater clarity, I hope. There is more life experience. I hope, there is more balance, I hope. And it's actually never enough. You see, when it comes to reaching more balance, more experience of life, more clarity, that there can always be more or better. So it's important for all of us, of course, to gain clear concepts, to possess certain techniques or certain methods, but not allow them to become the center of the mind, the place from which we listen, the center of our attention, our perception. Not make them an attachment. An identity, a possession, self-image. When you look deeply into yourself and you ask yourself, what do I know at the end of the day? What have I accumulated? And the answer is absolutely nothing. Because that's freedom. That's what it's all about. It's having no possession, being as light as space itself. So the entire insight of the awakened mind is the state in which there is no experience and no becoming experienced. It's a clean slate. It's a transparent mind. That's why it is as fresh as morning dew, you see. Now, why is it like that? Because the whole thing about the awakened mind is that it is a leap beyond time. You can only have experienced or become experienced within the limits of time. This is obvious, right? Because we live in time, and in time we accumulate, we gather our experiences, our meditative experiences, great meditative experiences. We gather knowledge, but what has it got to do with the awakened mind? So when there is time, there is the sense that of a spiritual journey. There is the sense of growing experience. But when there is time, there is no enlightenment. And don't worry if you start thinking that you need to actually take a leap beyond time, that's also complete illusion. Remember what Tilopa said. Rest naturally. So you can stay exactly where you are right now and simply recognize that there is no such thing as time. This means that everything that you have thought, that you have accumulated, that you have become, that you have experienced, and so on, it is now just pictures in your mind. It is memory, and memory is a form of imagination. You see, time consists of just frozen pictures, or frozen memories that memory preserves. Or frozen images that we imagine to be the future. This you remember, we did it just in the meditation. So without memory or imagination, right now there is no time. And when there is no time, there is enlightenment. Enlightenment simply is. So if I cling to some super strong spiritual experience that I once had, this is a great misunderstanding. Because being awake means that right now there is an awareness outside of time. And that this is the only relevant experience you can truly have. You see, it really doesn't matter whatever happened before this moment. It doesn't count. It doesn't. You don't. It's not like credit in that you accumulate. It's just as it is not a form of expertise. Therefore, you can also never develop pride about spirituality. Pride is, again, the result of this self-image, which is the result of the opposite of the awakened mind. So pride can only indicate that you have no idea. You have no idea what meditation is. So this state of awareness outside of time cannot accumulate. It cannot become a part of time. You cannot speak of it as experience. You cannot say it's not a part of continuity. It is outside of it. And that's why it's important not to get old. It's because, you see, what we really need to fear is not the getting old, the aging of the body. The aging of the body is a natural process. It is not our danger. What is really dangerous what is really also unnatural is the aging of the mind. If the mind is completely young, then it doesn't matter anymore whether the body ages. Sometimes people invest so crazily, so much energy in preventing their aging process, not realizing that it is actually a confused worry. Because if their mind ages while their body remains younger, that's actually not very beneficial. Maybe just some boost for our self-image. So actually, as the body becomes older, the mind can become younger and younger with every day, because it is a matter of less and less. So it becomes younger and younger until it reaches the age 0. So with every day, it is less based in experience. It is less based in comparison. And again, remember, pay attention, if there is a part that says, yes, I know these ideas already, or that I already have experience in this, or worse, I'm already free from time, then be very alert that this is exactly the opposite of the awakened mind. Because it means that we're again listening from the realm of time, you see, from the realm of continuity, from the realm of accumulation. That is not a fresh mind. That is not a mind that is as fresh as the cosmos is constantly. And you can compare your situation to the situation of the universe, because the universe has aged physically in billions of years. That's quite a lot. We only have, what, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years. That's nothing. And still our mind becomes so thick and so tired and so worn out because of this sense of experience, this sense of expertise. So the awakened mind has no spiritual journey. It has not taken a path. It knows no evolution. So what happens to the mind when there is this shedding of this notion of spiritual experience, of accumulation, the sense that I have become so old, I now, this is my 1000th satsang. I have met this teacher and that teacher, I can compare them all. I can quote, I know the right words. I have had amazing experiences. I've had experienced silence in the desert or whatever, you know. But when you recognize that this is getting old, you drop it. When you recognize that the whole insight of the awakened mind is this awareness outside of time, you drop it. And it is important every now and then to make sure that we return to the starting point. Let everything that has been accumulated be destroyed, you see? Really be destroyed. It's not really a destructive action in a negative sense. It is not opposing anything. But just feel how you are rebelling against all the knowledge, all experience. Feeling how everything is just images, pictures in the mind, and letting them go. Allowing the mind to regain its innocence, its freshness, its natural state. When we don't do that, life does it for us. Sooner or later, life leads us to states and situations in which suddenly we are forced to feel as if we know nothing, as if all of our learning, all of our great knowledge, our great words, our great experiences actually worth nothing. And then we are forced to return to the point of beginning. If we resist this teaching and run away, that's a great shame, because this is a healthy point. We really haven't learned anything, you see. In our heart of hearts, in our mind of minds, the mind is as empty as space. After all, remember that this is anyway always about the quality of the mind, you see, not about the contents of the mind. When I say contents of the mind is what the mind can possess, like knowledge or experience. These are contents, but this has nothing to do with the awakened mind, which is only concerned with the quality of our listening right now. Not the contents, but what is listening to the contents. So let's see if you have any questions. Anything you would like to clarify about the main subject of our talk, ideally, but if there are more questions, then you are welcome to ask. You can write it to Carlos and okay, so meanwhile I will answer here. I will answer Noga. Yes?
I wanted to ask if there is a meaningful perception of time which is not practical.
A meaningful perception of time?
Which is not just for practical reasons, like being aware of it.
Which is not, yes, so you're asking, is it meaningful sometimes to have a sense of time? Like what? A sense of future? A sense of what?
I'm wondering because you presented that the center of attention is where there is no perception of time.
Yes.
And at the same time, there is some knowledge which is accumulated that is there. And after the talk, there is a wish for a feeling that there can be a new relationship or a new perception of the whole phenomena of time. But I'm not sure if it's just not the old mind trying to keep himself attached to time, or is there a different way to look at it?
You mean, your question is there, because what is time in the sense that what is it? Is it the story? The story of something?
Feeling of continuity, of some past, some things that are happening one after another, maybe.
Okay. But doesn't this happen anyway?
I thought maybe if the attention is not there, then also this feeling is not so meaningful in the whole perception of presence, the being.
Because again, the question is what is time in this sense? Is it a time that takes this flower to open, or the time it takes this flower to burst from the soil? Is this what we mean? The process of life? Because processes of life take time. Processes of life definitely take time. You become a mother by holding inside of you something very initial, and then it becomes a human being. And then there are these processes. These processes are life. They do not affect the mind, the subtlest dimension or layer of the mind, because this subtlest dimension is what is aware of all these processes. So the problem is when we get caught in these processes, you see, instead of appreciating them or containing them, we become them. You see? suddenly you become the little girl with the past and family, and then the little girl grows, becomes a teenager, whatever, experiences this and that, bad things, wonderful things, and then has aspirations, and it grows to be perhaps what it wants to be, or it is completely frustrated about what it hasn't become, and so on and so on. So again, these are the processes of life. Time in this sense is process, in the real sense. But the problem is when time touches the mind. When time interferes with mind, we are lost. Because the very beauty of the process of life now becomes suffering. Because the mind is now caught in the process. It is caught in the process of what it was, what it is, what it will become, perhaps, hopefully. And that's already suffering. So the question is, if we are listening and watching from outside of time, then the processes of life become something beautiful. But the attachment to the processes of life creates what we can call psychological time. And psychological time is suffering.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, Lily writes.
Yes, Lily. Hello.
How could I have a question if I follow Tilopa not to recall? I feel after this talk a great tiredness and also relief. So it's more sharing.
Yes. So how could I have a question? Lily writes, after Tilopa's instruction not to recall.
Yes.
Right? This is true. Yes, because questions naturally we ask because we are creating different connections and comparisons. We compare what we've heard to our current patterns of knowledge or what we already know, and then we're trying to make sense because we're trying to categorize it, what we've just heard. We're trying to put it inside the boxes of the mind, of the brain, right? So that there will be order. That's why sometimes we reject certain ideas because they mess with what is already in the boxes. You see? So we do feel tiredness and exhaustion, yes, sometimes because our mind is so fatigued, you see? We have worn ourselves out, attaching so greatly to recollections, to imagination, anticipation, comparison, analysis, and then when we hear Tilopa says, rest now, naturally. Something in us from the depth, let's go, you see? And that can be expressed in some form of tiredness and relief. The tiredness is relief, and the relief leads to tiredness. Yes. Yes.
A question from Sabine.
From?
Sabine.
Sabine? Yes. Hello.
A Course in Miracles teaches that the world is just a dream and that except from love, there is nothing that can be called real. Is the mind, which is as empty as space, identical with love?
Again, please, the question? in the Course of Miracles, yes, says.
The Course of Miracles teaches that the world is just a dream, and that except from love, there is nothing that can be called real. This is the mind which is as empty as space, identical with love.
Yeah, but first of all, I would just ask, isn't the world made of love? You see, because why do I need to say that the world is a dream and that only love is real? Then I need to reject something, and this is the opposite thing of love. You see, love is that which is all encompassing, is all embracing. Love is that which is the force that governs all the universes and binds them together, binds molecules, binds atoms. Therefore, love makes the world real. That is what I would offer. Otherwise, I'm not sure that in love there is denial. You see, in love there is rejection. Now the question is beautiful. You're asking, is the mind a space? Is it to be equated with love? Is it the same? Well, I wouldn't say that exactly, because love is a force. Love is an energy. It is the primal energy. It is the primordial energy. It is the energy that burst from the source of life and took the form of the universe. It is the first cause. It is the why. It is the reason. It is behind the beating heart of the universe. It is why the heart of the universe beats in the first place. And then there is the mind as space. And the mind as space is the primordial consciousness of the universe, you see? Because when we begin to do what Tilopa tells us, and which is to look into the mind, to keep looking at the mind with our mind and to see that it's made of space, this is only the beginning, because then at a certain point you realize that mind is not inside the brain, it is everywhere. Mind is the all-inclusive space that of the universe. Within the mind, love vibrates. Within the mind, love creates universes. So in this sense, the love is that which, it's the force that arises from within the heart of the pure mind. Yes.
Question from Tali.
From Tali. Hello.
What do you focus on right now? Or what is in your awareness? How is it to be in the moment? I try to be, but always question if it is the correct state that I am in, or if it's just another illusion.
Okay, once again.
What do you focus on right now? What is in your awareness? How is it to be in the moment? I try to be, but I always question if it is the correct state that I am in, or if it's just another illusion.
Okay, so What is it that we're focusing on? On absolutely nothing. And this is the thing. And I'm not saying that you should focus on nothing. Nothing as a sort of a new something. I'm saying you focus on nothing because the very problem of the I, the very problem of self is the constant focus, you see? Constant focus. It's because the constant focus divides the world constantly into subject and object, right? Because there's always something to focus on. And the constant focus is what creates the movement of self. There is focus, 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 and that creates a sense of center inside you, right? That is the one that is focusing. And that's exactly the situation. There's always something to look at. There's always something that, and then we get a new instruction, be in the moment, right? Somebody tells us, be in the now. But then we're starting to try to focus on the now, this elusive object. Now I have another object, subject and object. Subject, Tali, trying to focus on now. Now, what is now? But if there is a true understanding of what mindfulness is not focus. It is not contraction of attention. It is when attention becomes as wide as the ocean. It is when your attention is no longer your attention. It has no walls, it has no floor, it has no ceiling. It has no edge, it has no limit. When attention is so wide that it flows above the head, around your body, and then infiltrates every molecule in space. That is what attention is. It's free, it's unhindered, it's not limited, because we limit it. So always try to get this sense of expansion of attention. Expansion of attention. Allow attention to be expanded beyond the ordinary limits. This doesn't mean that attention cannot look at a flower, that attention cannot look at a beautiful face, that attention cannot focus on work, but attention in itself, at the back of the mind, is without condition. Then, by the way, you realize that in this attention there is love. So when you ask, where do you put your focus of attention? Then I say it's the very opposite. It's the art of unfocusing. And again, it's not some kind of a strange state that you are like you are interfering with your sense of vision, that you're trying to blur your vision or something. It's not something crazy. It simply unfocusing simply means that the mind, just as Lily pointed out before, the mind is so tired. It is so tired because it is obsessively focused on objects. And if it's not focused on objects in the world, it is focused on objects inside the inner world, right? And then if it is not focused on objects in the inner world, then it has meditation that focuses on special objects. And the thing is that ultimately, attention and the object of attention, they are one. And as long as we are dividing the world because we over-focus, we will never realize this reality. So even if you're not sure about everything that I've just said, just remember expansion of attention. That is enough.
A question from someone who's just called super.
Okay.
Yeah. I want to attain samadhi. Can you help me?
I thought this is what we have been talking about. Isn't this, if we are listening carefully, then samadhi is not something that we attain. You see, samadhi is something that already is, it already exists. We only need to allow ourselves to sink into it. It's not something, the very sentence, I want to attain samadhi, is very problematic. Because I'm already saying you can never attain samadhi. The I at the beginning of the sentence will do anything in its power not to attain samadhi. It cannot reach it. It cannot have this nectar because it wants to attain something. Therefore, it already doesn't listen. It is already too occupied. It's too busy. It's searching. It's obsessive. It's attached. But listen to this. The universe is already in samadhi. Everything is already in samadhi. Then all we do is we let the mind join.
Question from Sandra.
Yes, Sandra.
If I am not focusing on anything,
Yes.
is this then the 0 point? Or
If-
point 0?
If I'm not focusing on anything,
Is this then the 0 point?
yes, if it's deep. If it's deep, if it contains the understanding, this unfocusing contains an understanding that your being awareness is not about the objects that it focuses on, not even divine objects, spiritual objects, objects of great experience, special experiences, special knowledge, super knowledge, all that is not important. What is important is that which is aware and what is the quality of that which is aware, you see? Because the question is, where do we listen from? So if we understand, so if there is unfocusing, this means that awareness spreads, and that's good. But then, do I understand that this is all that really matters? You see, that there is this lucidity, there is this openness. And that there is no self in it, you see? Because if there is openness to it, there is no center. Remember this is the great irony, the great absurd of our spiritual journey. It's like we aim to, as if to drop everything, but eventually with the years we become thicker and thicker, and we only nourish that self. And then we replace our focus on worldly things with focus on unworldly things. This doesn't matter. So if you understand what this unfocusing is, if it contains this kind of openness without accumulation, then this is it, yes.
A question from Lydia.
Yes, Lydia.
What about questions of self-inquiry?
Sorry, again?
What about questions of self-inquiry?
Yeah.
Are they not helpful to come into that state that Tilopa describes? Or are they just disturbing?
We said before, nothing is disturbing. It's not that now we are saying we are limiting completely the entire realm of activities in the spiritual life. You see, it doesn't work like this. First of all, we can do everything. We don't need now to renounce. It's just like saying I need to stop drinking water in order to focus on awareness, or in order to unfocus, you see. Then I shouldn't focus on objects like water. It's just as ridiculous, you see. So we don't need to now create a new concept of unfocusing. That would be completely missing the point. What I'm saying, please return to the principle of this talk, that at the center of the mind, if we want to avoid this spiritual aging, this clinging, this attachment to the concept of the spiritual journey, that actually brings us to the very opposite of what we're hoping to realize. At the center of the mind, we should have no sense of I know, I have experience, I have accumulated, I am on a journey. That this is the principle. Now, this means that if you have a question of self-inquiry, go into it by all means, but just remember that when you ask this question, you ask it every time anew. You understand? It's not like you are now, it's not like a Wikipedia entry that keeps adding new materials to the same topic. You see? It's self-inquiry, questions of self-inquiry. They need to help you smash prior knowledge, shatter this cluster of self-knowledge, you see? Therefore, approach these questions as if for the first time in your life. You see? For example, if I ask, what is the meaning of life, or who am I? Then ask this question as if it's the first time you've ever asked this question. With the freshness, because these questions are just the same as any other Mahamudra meditation. The question is, what is the quality of the mind that is asking, not what the question is. You see? This is the point. So, a last question. Yes.
Okay. From Jochen.
From?
Jochen.
Hello.
How do you bring that unfocusing together with the invitation to do, for example, in a fire meditation? Do you see meditation as a preparation stage that has to be dropped at a point for the sake of reality?
This is a very good question, because again we ask, so what is the point of all the meditations that tell us to focus on anything, right? And I teach meditations that focus on certain things. It's not that they are excluded because they are beneficial. What they do is that there is a certain point that if the focus of meditation is good enough, it is meant to lead us to the state of unfocusing. Do you understand? If it is a brilliant meditation, its aim is to lead us to unfocusing. It tells us to focus on this only because if you focus on this, it will explode. And then it will lead you to a state of unfocusing. But the state of unfocusing is always the only real state. So the only question is whether we are using these techniques in order to, out of the right understanding of why we're doing this. So in inner fire, for instance, there are syllables, there are chakras, there are points of attention, centers of attention. These are all important because ultimately they lead us to the very state of Mahamudra, which is the all-encompassing pure mind, which is the ultimate unfocusing. It's mind without edge, without center. So as long as you remember why you're doing this, continue to practice this, but do not cling only to these type of meditations in the sense that from time to time there has to be this expansion, you see? Remember, also Tilopa taught in a fire, and he taught other techniques, and at the same time he taught Mahamudra. Mahamudra says unfocus. All the other techniques say focus. But when you reach Mahamudra, all the techniques have fulfilled their duty, their task. Therefore, practice, but never forget the purpose of the practice. It's not meant to keep us to create any fixed attention in us. Every good meditation, its purpose is to destroy itself in the end, you see. To bring itself to the end, it sacrifices itself for the state of Mahamudra. So I hope that this evening has made at least some of us younger, allowed some of us to drop many years. Again, the experience is never really dropped. You cannot erase your experience. You cannot drop your wisdom of life. It's not possible, and it's not our intention. But it's dropping it from the core of the mind, so that it can be washed. It can be new. It can be timeless. Thank you so much. Good night, and we will meet in the realm of time and process in 1 month from now.